Fantastic. Okay, welcome to Wind Down on this eve of a great long weekend. How good is this? We've got some guests coming along this afternoon. I guess, you know, if you're in Melbourne, you're probably, the last couple of weeks has been an extremely long weekend, but we've got some great guests coming along this evening. And, you know, I think we should just get straight into it. I guess, Barry, we'd like to welcome Barry Elvish, CEO of Fitness Australia, here this afternoon. And I'm going to throw to JT, because JT's been working with Barry a lot closer than I have, and he can tell us a little bit more. So JT, up in the Hunter Valley, cool and calm on this Friday afternoon, mate. Here it is.
Well, thanks, Richard, and thanks, Barry, for joining us. Barry, this is the Friday wind down, where we WINE down, or whatever beverage we choose. And I just, you know, I think it would be remiss of me not to say you're the hardest working person in the fitness industry at the moment, but I actually think everybody's working their butts off in different ways, shapes and form. However, I did note the other day when we were on a webinar together in the middle of the week that I have to think, Barry, your hairline is moving further back since you've been the CEO of Fitness Australia. Is that a fair criticism or comment? You're on mute. You're on mute. I know you're brand new to Zoom. I know that, but take yourself off mute.
Okay, hang on. I've got to get this back again now. Oh, shit. Hang on.
Glad I'm not the only one with that tech.
Technology, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I see you.
It's telling me the video is stopped.
Well, at least we can hear you now.
There you go. We
Hey.
got that.
All right. So, okay. So, JT, what's happened is the week has shifted, mate.
What shifted? The weekend has shifted.
The wig.
The wig has shifted. The wig has shifted.
The wig. No. Yeah, it is receding. It's also going grey for the first bloody time as well. But this is the joy of working in fitness, I reckon. Not
During these times in particular.
Yeah.
Please don't do it. Please, Barry, don't do a before and after shot of what it was like working before the fitness industry, working during the fitness industry.
Yeah, no, it's okay, JT. You have another red up there in the Hunter Valley, mate. You'll be okay.
Mate, you've been working your tail off. Can you just give us I mean, obviously, most of the attention has been on Victoria. Today, Fitness Australia turned up the heat in New South Wales around the COVID marshals. I guess generally what we're seeing when we get together every 2 weeks on this call is that really Western Australia, Queensland, Northern Territory, Tasmania, South Australia to a certain degree, it's very much business as usual in those states. Yep. And it's really New South Wales next cab off the rank, and then Tasmania, Victoria still. In fact, I don't even think Victoria are even in the ballpark to ready to play the game yet.
Oh, I can share some hot news hot off the press with you on that one, JT.
Oh, here we go.
So this is exclusive.
Let's make it good news.
Okay, so just to go back to New South Wales, as you know, the issues up here where I am in Sydney are the COVID marshals, which we have got a submission in to health here, and I have a meeting coming up next week with Dr. Laura, somebody from New South Wales Health, to go through, I guess, the rationale that we put forward to get rid of the COVID marshals, which is basically based on the cost of the COVID marshals, particularly now with things like JobKeeper, JobSeeker dropping out of the situation. Also, many of the gyms will start to have to pay full tote odds with their rent because those concessions are starting to drop off as well. So the financial pressures on the gyms is pretty ramping up significantly. And the data we got from our members clearly shows that the number of people attending a gym in what would normally be an unstaffed time in a 24/7 is, you know, no more than 5 people usually in a gym. So we're talking about densities of 130, 140 square metres per person. We know we've got the closed circuit TV. We know we've got the swipe card still. So we think we've got a pretty good argument that they should be getting rid of the COVID marshals. But having said that, we know also that logic and arguments doesn't always make sense, as we have seen down in Victoria. So with Victoria, we heard today at long last, and I've got to take this with a bit of grain of salt, but also at face value. The reason why there has been a delay this week in them getting back to us, allegedly, is the resignation of Mikakis, or whatever her name is, and a new health minister coming into play. And the Deputy Chief Health Officer has had to brief the new health minister. So next Monday, so we've been given a go-to person now in DHHS, a fairly high bureaucrat, as I understand it. Here's our link back to the CHO and also the minister. The CHO and the Deputy CHO are meeting on Monday to go through our plan that we submitted to them, the COVID plan, and also the categorisation of risk, etc., as they asked at a meeting last week. They have told us that by close of business on Monday or at the latest Tuesday lunchtime, they will advise us of a follow-up meeting. Alan Cheng, who is the Deputy CEO, has told us he requires no more information from us, in that the information we have provided is more than satisfactory. Now, that's come through as about an hour and a half ago. I was about to go and speak to the media before that came through to express our extreme disappointment that we hadn't even had any feedback or response. So this go-to person has been very apologetic. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's hope we get something positive coming out Monday, Tuesday next week, and at least a new meeting being set. And hopefully, and this is where it starts to now go into really hope, that they actually see some reason and logic. As we know, even in regional Victoria, gyms aren't open, which is just absolute lunacy. There's been no transmissions, no new cases, etc. there. But what we're fighting, unfortunately, and we're not the only industry, by the way, what we're fighting in Victoria is, and I don't know how wide this webinar goes, but we're fighting a lot of degree of stubbornness and to be quite honest, what I would classify as bloody-mindedness, to be quite honest, where this is the only state where they are not engaging so far productively and realistically to engage with the industry, to hear what we can do to address these issues. Now, it's interesting, at the meeting we had last week, the Deputy CHO acknowledged that he wasn't aware that the category of gym that we use includes everything from very low movement yoga studios, small yoga studios, through to the great big leisure centres and the big box, facilities. And he actually said, well, I can see now how gyms aren't necessarily high risk. So I was actually quite tempted to ask him, would you please say that publicly? But I thought that might be a bit cheeky, so I didn't. But anyway, hopefully there's going to be some good news next week. So that's cause for celebration, I hope, for everybody, because we know that Victoria is really, really suffering, not just our businesses down there, but the population down in the community generally.
Harry, can I just steer this in a bit of a direction here as well, so with a couple of questions, but just to give you a little bit of background, the reason the four of us actually came together, or as I see these guys as key leaders in the industry in Australia, and when we originally got together, the idea is to, we're all from different facets, like yourself, of the industry, and we all came together, and this is about us trying to come up with solutions or answers to help the industry and whatnot. So, and I think that, the diverse field, and what you're actually saying is that everybody's been focused on the fitness centres, the wellness centres, right? But they don't understand the flow-on effect that actually has throughout the communities. And my call is out to the politicians, and I've been to my local guys, and I've been to state, and I've even tried to get hold of what's his name, Daniel Andrews. That's right. To sort of say, come on, mate, come along and talk to these guys in the industry and the associated industries, and just have an understanding of the flow-on effect of your decisions, right? So, but anyway, so that's a little bit of background about it. But I just want to ask you a question.
Sorry, Richard, before you start into the questions, I've just got Mel as well. Is it okay if we bring Mel in before we start into the questions?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, Barry, you're
Awesome.
happy for Mel to come in? Yep.
More than that, yeah.
Let Mel know. I mean, she'll probably be listening that we're still chatting specifically.
Yeah, awesome. And Eddie, do you mind introducing Mel as well?
Yeah, no, that's fine. But should we just, do we
I'll
want to
bring her in right now.
let's just let her come in and join as a, at this point.
Yep, right now.
Let's do so, because Barry's in the middle of kind of chatting, I just feel.
Yeah.
We agree.
Let's not lose momentum.
Hey Mel, we're going to introduce you once Barry's still sort of mid combo. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mel. So Barry, my question is, and I'll just go back a little bit in time, and I know you're relatively new, let's say, in the role, but back in March of this year, there was an open letter that was published by Fitness Australia. And I'll just quote, part of the quote was, "I'm really proud that our industry has already contributed $60,000 to support our ongoing efforts." One of the questions that's come to me is okay, what's actually happened since then? You know, can you give us an overview? Okay, there's this money that's come in, whatever, whether it's right or wrong. How's that? You know, has it been distributed to support you to actually go to government and start kicking some heads, or is it in relation to some sort of support to your members? You know, so where has that kind of been spent? You know, that those funds. You know.
Yeah, well, that's a multi-tiered question, Richard, and I guess it's also a bit of a hand grenade as well. So I'll try and put the pin back in and answer it as best I can. So back in March, when this, as you know, we were shut down without any consultation, etc., and one of our board members suggested that, you know, we should probably, we being I, should reach out to the industry and sort of ask them to make some contributions to Fitness Australia so that we could actually ramp up the advocacy, because I've been quite public in my statements, and I'm happy to share this as well. I think in the past, Fitness Australia hasn't been particularly active in the advocacy areas. It hasn't really been what I would say, and you're quite right, I don't come from the industry the fitness industry, but just as an outside observer, I don't think it's been particularly active in advocacy, and there's a whole lot of reasons for that, which we can talk about some other day. But so we put out a call for some support from our members, and we got a lot of support, and the donations came in, and they range from $500 through to $5,000, depending on who it was. That money was then used to employ a new PR agency, and that money has actually basically been gone. It's now being underwritten by Fitness Australia to maintain the advocacy efforts that we have been doing. And I would argue, and I know we're still subject to criticism from members and non-members alike for not doing enough, but I would argue that the profile that Fitness Australia has at the moment has never been higher in the history of the organisation. Now, that might be rose-coloured glasses, and maybe I'm being a little bit subjective, not objective, but certainly that would be my view. It's interesting that you asked that question, Richard, because also we've just gone out again at the suggestion of some of our members to start a media campaign which starts the week after next. It's a radio and social media campaign, particularly on the eastern states. It's got two prongs to it. First of all, in Victoria, to get gyms open. That's the first attack on that. And then the second stage, assuming we're successful and the gyms get open, it'll run through until Christmas. And it's encouraging members of gyms that are still reluctant or reticent to come back to actually come back, but also stressing the importance of exercise being an essential service to help with physical and mental well-being, to encourage new memberships. So that's a campaign which is costing about 90-odd thousand. Fitness Australia has kicked in 25,000 of their own into that campaign as well. And as I say, that will be launched the second week of October in the eastern states, particularly Victoria and New South Wales. So the money that we brought in initially back in March has all gone. It's now being topped up by Fitness Australia. And we can do that because since and this is why I think our profile has been so much better since March, or since this year, to be quite honest, but particularly since March. Our membership has grown over 15% from business members. And interestingly, independent businesses from Melbourne has never been from Victoria has never been a higher take-up rate, even during this closure period, which actually I think tells us something about industry looking to members or potential members looking to an industry association to step up, stand up and start advocating on behalf of not just the members, but the whole fitness sector. I think we've been doing that a lot better than we have in the past. That's not to say we're doing it perfectly, of course, but we are doing the best we can given the resources we have. And I'm pretty proud of what we've been doing as an industry association. Having said that, I know that we have our critics out there, and no matter what we do, it's never enough or not good enough or it's wrong and all the rest of it. But we're doing the best we can.
Look, Barry, and that's great. And I applaud yourself, for having to come into at such a time where it's pretty dramatic, and it takes somebody with, can I say it, a few balls to step up and address a lot of these issues.
Balls.
No, Richard, I'd have been texting me years ago, but that's okay.
No, well, I think you know what I mean. In Australia, we talk about having the gumption and the guts to step up, and deal with some of these things, and it's, maybe it just landed on your plate when you're rocked in there. But I know that in a leadership role, the decisions have got to be made, and sometimes they've got to be hard, and not everybody's going to agree to it. But at the end of the day, it's about your members and the industry as a whole, and I think we shouldn't forget that. And one of the big things.
Can I ask Barry a question?
Sorry, Eddie.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask Barry a question, if I may, about because they're doing so much, and what I wonder is, as Barry's kind of indicated, and you're indicating, Rich, is it's very easy for people to criticise. I just wondered, what can the industry do better to support Fitness Australia? I mean, other than we have memberships, but there are different bodies around doing different parts, and is there anything that would be more constructive, I guess, to get the conversation out of what hasn't been done into what has been done? Sure, that's one thing, but I think it's one of the reasons sometimes there's criticism is people live in the past. You guys are being really proactive, and it's a really great opportunity for us all to come together right now. And is there anything from your point of view that could be a more positive conversation for us to be having?
Is that directed to me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So let's. I think the closest I've come to this situation is when I was working in early childhood in Queensland, and back in 2011, there was massive floods, and it destroyed a lot of our early childhood kindergartens and childcare centres, overnight, and we had to move very quickly to get those sort of centres open. And it's times of crisis is when people, I think, should come together. And there really is only one industry association in Australia, and I'm not interested in getting in debates about any other organisations that may exist. There is realistically only one industry association, and that is Fitness Australia. And I think it's beholden of all people to actually come together and come inside the tent. If we've got criticisms, make it constructive, bring it into the tent. Let's all work together. The best thing that gym businesses can do, and it's interesting, we've got our board elections coming up next week. The nominations are still open. Anyone who's listening to this or watching this and you're interested in running for the board, get out there and nominate for the board. We've changed our constitution. It used to be a boys' club. It used to be the Sydney Mafia. It is no longer the case. We now have a much more greater representation. If you want to know what to do, join the association, get behind it, because with one strong, united voice, that is where you get credibility. That is where you get respect. If you start fighting amongst yourselves out in the community, or dividing or going off in factions, you are basically bagging yourselves, you're bagging the industry, and diluting the ability of Fitness Australia to actually, I guess, fulfill its true potential.
So Barry, having said that, I mean, we know there is FitRec, there are organisations in Vic, which is kind of Mel's been involved with, that are doing stuff. Is Fitness Australia offering, is there a platform for you all come together and talk to enable that one conversation?
I've been in a phone call with Vic Health today. Not Vic Health, Vic Active today. I speak to Peter Lang from Vic Active every day. I speak to Tim from Vic Active every second day. We had Vic Active at the meeting with the Cho last week. We are working very closely with Vic Active. Peter and Tim have both told me, and they in different forums, and I've heard them say this at the CHO meeting, that all they want to do is get the gyms in Victoria open. They defer to Fitness Australia to negotiate what those protocols might be to make that happen. So I have absolutely no issue with Vic Active. The other organisations you mentioned, I don't think particularly do a lot of good for our industry. And I guess, you know, one of the things that we need to do, one of the things that really strikes me as being quite instructive coming out of this process is the fact that we were shut down without any consultation, labelled as high risk, labelled as dangerous, all this sort of carry on that we're getting still in Victoria. We need to be much more closely aligned to allied health in people's minds, in the community's minds, in decision makers' minds, politicians, public health and all the rest of it. We will never do that as long as we are an ungoverned, unregulated industry. We have to take ourselves seriously and we have to behave seriously if we want to be taken seriously by the key stakeholders in the wider community. Now, we currently have between 17 and 20% of Australians as members of a gym. That's been like that for 10 to 12 years, as I understand it. People tell me we're never going to do any better than that. I would challenge that. We won't do any better than that when we're not taken seriously. But if we can reposition our industry, our sector, into being much more aligned, not part of, much more aligned with allied health, we'll be taken much more seriously. It'll open up a whole lot of avenues and potential channels and funnels for new members to come in. And I don't think this will happen again if we can get to that position before the next COVID 21, 25, 29, whatever it is when it comes. And to do that, we've got to look at seriously some sort of regulatory framework that we develop ourselves. We then take that to the government and say, the industry supports this, it is behind this, we want you to mandate it, and then we go from there. That's how we move from where we currently are to the holy grail of being in a whole new context, in my mind.
Okay, well, guys, I mean, this is really a an all afternoon wind down discussion. This one we can take it much further, can't we? But I think what I'd like to just say there, Barry, Justin, yeah, one sec, mate, and you stay nice and relaxed there, mate, at the Hunter Valley, and just hold yourself for a couple of, you know. Barry, what I'd like to say, and this is from people outside of the fitness and the wellness centres. Okay, I prefer to call them fitness and wellness centres because when we talk about gyms, the politicians think about the dirty old Bob's gym, the boxing gym down in the corner. And so when I talk to the politicians, I talk about fitness and wellness centres. And but with the associated, because I guess, you know, I supply product into the industry. JT, you know, talks, you know, and some of the guys here are actually involved in the industry. What I would like to see is that we talk a lot about the fitness and wellness industry, but we need to talk about the fitness and wellness industry as a whole, about the suppliers. We need to talk about everybody that's associated with that as well, you know. So anyway, I won't go into it too much more. JT, you've got a very...
Oh, no, I was just going to add to what Barry said in the sense of the regulation. And I mean, that it may well be the holy grail that we try to get to, Barry. And it may be what we have to aim towards, and it may take us 5 years. But I'm pretty sure I'd heard at the Philex event, South Africa have regulated, and the international peak bodies that get together every week. There is much discussion all over the world about this regulation and trying to raise the professionalism of our industry. So we're not going this alone as a country, as a maverick. This is an international movement, isn't it?
It is, JT. And you're right, South Africa has gone down this path, but as I understand it, it was imposed on them by government because of bad practice. Now, if you're talking about regulation, there's two ways you can go with this. We can, as an industry, and I'll talk about the consultation process in a minute, but as an industry, we can go to the government and say, we want to be regulated, please regulate us. Now, that's one way of doing it, and that personally, I think that's the wrong way to do it because you don't know what you're going to end up with. You could end up with something that they take off the shelf and say, okay, guys, here you are, and it doesn't work, it works against us. I think we're better if we develop a self-regulatory model through consultation with the industry, and in the industry I include all of those factors that Richard has just mentioned, but also including the RTOs, because the training is a critical part of, you know, upgrading and upskilling and putting in some, you know, minimum standards rather than what currently exists in some areas. And then we go to the government, we say, okay, the industry is behind this, we want this, it is, when I say industry, 99% industry is behind us. We want this. We get one state government to mandate it, the rest will fall over. That's how it'll happen. And that way we control our own destiny. We can sit back and stay where we have been for the last 10 or 12 years, and that'll be good. And business will still go along. You'll be on your 17, 18%. And when the next COVID comes, we'll have the same thing again. But if we really want to be taken seriously and try and grow the market for our members, and our employees and our member, the sole traders and all these guys, personal trainers and the businesses, we have to shift the dynamic and shift the thinking. Now, Filex was the start of some sort of consultation. We had a panel there with the gunfight. Prior to that, Patrick Kaiser, who's working with me to develop a questionnaire, had a focus group of some people that to help sort of inform that questionnaire. The questionnaire will be going out industry-wide, and when I say industry-wide, Richard, I mean industry-wide, so all those sort of guys you're talking about. But I've been talking to the ACCC, private health funds, various government ministers and health departments. I'm going to put it out to them as well, because I want their input onto this so that we can get some sort of really strong feedback. And I would hope the consultation process is over by, around Christmas time. We get a draft report out, we do more consultation, we go back with a second draft. And I would hope that sometime next year we can agree as an industry that we can put something, we can agree on it. And then we start the process of hopefully getting it mandated. It could take a lot longer, but I guess I'm the optimist. I'm an old man. My time is limited in this role. I want to, I guess, be able to leave and contribute something to the sector before I depart. And so that's, I guess, what's driving me. Now, if the industry consultation comes back and says, Barry, you're a dickhead, or you got no idea what you're talking about, we don't want this, great, that's okay. But I think we owe it to the industry. I've had enough people tell me, get the cowboys out, without actually explaining who those cowboys are, to actually try and do something about this. And if we don't do it as an industry association, it's not going to happen, or it'll be imposed on us by an outside authority. And that would be a disaster in my mind.
Yeah, look, I agree, Barry, and I think we all have to take that kind of stance. That we need to come together in unity to drive the industry. It's just been flowing along for a long time, But anyway, hey, listen, I'm going to throw over to Eddie. Eddie, if you would like to introduce Mel and bring Mel to the table.
I shall do. Can I just make one point on that other? Is that I think what Fitness Australia are doing is brilliant. I just hope we do have a transition program or something to help lift those that may not be adequately qualified, because that is a huge percentage of the industry, and the entry point to the industry could become so high that it shrinks significantly, and that's my only red flag on it. But I'm sure you probably
can I just respond to that, because you're absolutely right. Whatever process we do here cannot be seen by the industry as being some way to weed out competitors or whatever. It needs to be. There needs to be an opportunity for businesses to improve themselves. So my background, as I said before, is early childhood. I was involved with the federal government's quality accreditation framework, which is now universal across Australia. And if you I could spend a whole time talking to you about that. But basically, the opportunity was there to give those underperforming centres to lift their game, and they had to do quality improvement programs and the rest of it. They had different levels of accreditation. Ultimately, if they didn't meet the agreements, they were pushed out. There's no question, because you've got to have standards. But this should be seen as an empowering exercise, not something which actually disempowers. Yeah. And we need to work with those centres, those businesses, those individuals that will respond positively to being challenged in a positive way.
Yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. Thanks, Barry. And Mel, thank you for patiently waiting there.
You're right.
So I'll give Mel a bit of an intro. Mel, there's so much we can say about you, so excuse me if I miss things. So Mel is a fitness business advisor. She's got her fitness, Women's Leaders Fitness Business podcast. Her and JT both do podcasts. She does her roundtables, as does JT. And she also runs a gym in Victoria. So you've been in the industry a long time, like all of us. How long, Mel?
17 years. I've had the club this month, actually. And 20 years I celebrate this December.
Wow. So there you go. Industry legend in her own right. So Mel, yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We know you've been quite vocal in there in Victoria. You're in the thick of it. Do you want to start by maybe giving us any insights into what's going on there right now, some of the struggles or the highlights, maybe both, of some of the...
Thanks, Evie. It's really, really quite interesting. I actually said to Justin in a message a couple of weeks ago that to totally understand what's going on here, you really do have to be here and be living here and be going through it each day. And I suppose the negative side effect of it is what everybody is seeing is the mental health is deteriorating, quite rapidly, not just the consumer, but also the fitness business owner. So my concern, and the reason that I reached out through social media to everybody, was that I feel that we really need to come together and really collaborate strongly, and we need to be looking after our own at the moment, not just the consumer, but the fitness business owner. I never ever thought in a million years that my job description would say I would have to refer people to Lifeline. We get into the industry because we're passionate about what we do. We may not have the business background, but we still go open up our clubs because we want to change people's lives every day. Never dreamt that I would be in this type of situation where I pushed into a corner where I have to say to someone, I can't help you. I'm not a qualified psychologist. You need to go and speak to somebody, at Lifeline. I went through the recession when I worked in the real estate industry, and I thought that was an incredible experience to go through. This is nothing. The recession was nothing compared to COVID. COVID is like waking up every day and not knowing what your journey or your destiny is going to be. Waking up every day and not knowing if the fitness business owner down the road, is going to close down, or opening up Facebook and seeing Jim's equipment on there for sale. I mean, these are real things that are happening every day. Sure, the government's giving us grants, but how far does a grant go? I'm extremely lucky in my situation. I don't have a landlord. I own my freehold and I own everything inside my gym. But there are people out there right now that are going to have to pay the back rent next year if they reopen their business.
I think we were going to ask you, because you've been...
Sorry?
You're one of the few gyms that has, well, I shouldn't say the few gyms, sorry, excuse that, wrong wording. You are one of the gyms who has stayed open throughout this. And so what are you doing to enable? That's one reason, but that's obviously not something that's going to help people, because most people may not own their gym. What else have you been doing to get through it?
Us as a gym, okay, so, lockdown one, we went into what everybody did. We did Facebook Live classes. We rented out steps and barbells to keep people moving. Ben Ritchie in Perth, we jumped on his app where you drop your classes in so people could do the classes later on. Staff came in ringing the members every day. We sent out thousands of dollars worth of text messages, emails. We tried to run our business as if they were coming in every day. We still did sponsored ads, did everything possible, Eddie. And, lockdown 2 is completely different. When they announced that we were going to be closing again, it was a grieving process for the members. They came in with rounded shoulders. Some members cried. Some staff cried, and it really was like a death, and they had to go through the grieving process. The difference between lockdown 2 and lockdown 1 is the fad of jumping online and doing an online class has gone. So we are working 10 times harder now to keep our community motivated. And that in itself is a big job. It's a draining job, and it's a lot of effort goes into it. And every day you get up and you've got to go through the same process. And the fitness business owners, they're working 24/7. And this is why I reached out and said, we have to collaborate. We are all responsible and accountable to our consumers and other fitness business owners in our industry. We have to be putting everything from the past behind us. It's not about who's the best, who's got the most likes, who's got the most shares, who's got the biggest database. This is about looking after people, our people like us, and we need to do it better.
And Mel, look, and that's fantastic, and that's the ethos that the industry should be taking. Yes, we are competitors, and we're JT. I'll go back a few years ago. Where JT is at the moment, I went to a wine industry function for somebody's birthday party, and I was blown away by the way that the wine industry in the Hunter Valley all looked after each other. They're competitors, but they all looked after each other. And they said, listen, if you want a good red, go to this place. If you want a good white, you know, go to this place, you know. And it was fantastic. And I commend them for that. And what you're saying is correct, and what Barry's saying is correct. And I think it's time that we all get together, and we need to drive this damn thing as a wedge into the in between the government and say, look, we've had enough, and we have to do that, you know, to make them wake up to themselves. Just a couple of questions there, guys. Just, and you touched on a few things there, Mal. About keeping your doors open. You know, I know a couple of businesses that just did some things as simple as a can of paint and freshened up the entrance into their centres. And the impact of that when people came in was amazing. You know, and I've heard some of the stories, you know, which was fantastic when they reopened the doors here in New South Wales. And you were talking about people working out at home, you know, online, all of that sort of stuff. You know, you can look at that as a threat, or you can use it as you know, to look at it and how do we work with that. What are you, Barry, both of you, what are your thoughts on that? You know, a lot of fitness owners, centre owners that I've spoken to have sort of seen that as a little threat. What do you guys think?
No, look, it's interesting you say that, Richard, because the guys I've been speaking to, and Richard Beattie over in New Zealand, we were comparing notes on this. It's actually been proving to be a funnel for potential new members, because you've got a situation, and you guys all know better than me. You know, there are barriers and obstacles to people walking into a gym door, which can be a whole lot of reasons, whether it be, you know, body image, you know, wrong perceptions, whatever it might be. But as I understand it from speaking to people that have reopened after the closures, they've lost some members who haven't come back, but they've more than made those up from people that started exercising at home for the first time and are now looking for a more structured, more social environment in a gym sort of thing. So as I understand it, a lot of people are going to keep doing it because they see that as a potential funnel to encourage people to start exercising at least in a home environment or wherever. And then when they get a little tired or sick of that, as Mel's just said, they might hopefully graduate to then, you know, because they're engaged already with the gym, they can use that as a CRM, or just a relationship process to encourage them to come into a gym with whatever they need to do.
Yep, and that's great. You know, Mel, you're not open yet. Is that correct? The centre's not open, or is it just about to?
No, we're not open at all. And we envisage, as Barry said, he's speaking to Vic Active each day, and I'm sitting on the Vic Active board. You know, at the moment, we really are hoping at the end of October, and of course, Dan Andrews speaks the end of November. But one of the great things is that we now have a new representative who's going to, in government, that's going to be looking after the fitness industry, and there'll be some meetings next week. So we're hoping that some positive news comes out of that. But question.
JT.
Mel, I'm more curious, and it's probably in a way off topic. Has the fitness industry in Victoria got enough traction, enough members to swing an election, to really go hard at Dan Andrews when it comes to election time and the Labor? I mean, I know it's a Labor government and I know there's Labor seats, but do you think as an industry, this is an opportunity for us to politicise what he's done to the industry?
Only if we come together and collaborate. We're too fragmented in Victoria. We have this group, and you know, we have Barry's group, and this is the reason that I reached out. We're a lot stronger in numbers. We need to come together and we need to be seen as one. So that means Barry needs to be there, Dennis needs to be there, because I'm only an ambassador for FitRec, so I can't speak as a CEO of FitRec. So, you know, Barry has to be there, Dennis has to be there, Physical Activity have to be there, Vic Active have to be there. And of course, apologies, I can't remember the name, but there's another group now that's looking after the fitness industry as well. We need to come together as one, and we need to have a strategy. And I do believe that the fitness industry in Victoria is big enough to make enough noise to make change, but not whilst we're all off in different directions. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, because what happens is people like this person and they go over there, Justin, and they go over here for this person. And, you know, let's face it, Dan Andrews couldn't give a shit about the fitness industry, all right? He told us back in March to go and get stuffed. He's not interested in us. And the reason he's not interested in us, and this is my personal opinion, is because for starters, you know, we're not regulated, we've got no union. He's looking after all of those that have unions, and he's pissed everybody else off. So that's a fundamental mistake that the fitness industry made years ago, because we all thought that we were safe because everybody wants to buy a gym membership and everybody wants to join the gym and we're all going to be safe. Well, you know, look what happened. We're not safe. And now we're at the back of the bus and we're going to be last off the bus. So if we want to make change in Victoria on the political stance, then we need to come together as one. And slightly off that a little bit, we need more women leaders out there. Show me a female right now that's out there having some sort of input politically. There's not. There's nobody. Show me.
Well, one of the things, Mel, actually, I wanted to bring this up earlier that Barry had said, which I love. So thank you, Barry, for mentioning it, because I was looking at the application for Fitness Australia's board members. And I know that Eddie has been a board member and she's always really inspired me, or like been a part of Fitness Australia, sorry. And he was just saying that he was very open and encouraging of women to apply. So thank you, Barry, for mentioning that as well today. So I think that's in the process of happening already, Mel, wherever you went. So she's back. So I think that's fantastic. And I also just wanted to add to that I got asked by a Queensland gym owner 2 days ago, well, what makes me good enough to apply as a Fitness Australia board member? And I've had this told by some amazing mentors of mine, and I appreciated it so much, that there's never a perfect time to apply. You just have to go for it, and you need to put in your application, and you'll never feel comfortable. It's always going to be that extra edge of uncomfortability, but you need to, now's the time in particular for us females in fitness and gym owners to step up. So I think that's a fantastic opportunity, and it is available right now. So those that are listening, definitely do apply. It's never a perfect time. Now is the time to apply and step up. So
we need a lot of diversity. We need to start to include everybody and stop, you know, excluding people based on, you know, race or perhaps their position in the industry. We just need to look at what can this person bring to the table. You don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with everything that they say and do, but what can this person bring to the table that's going to bring a positive impact to our industry? So yeah, lady gym owners out there now, if, you know, go apply for the board, Fitness Australia, definitely. The more women out there advocating, the better.
Barry, you were going to say something.
Sorry.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Mel may not be aware, but there's more females on our board than males.
That's what I was going to say. There's heaps.
In fact, they very much outweigh the males. So we've certainly moved away from the boys' club, etc. And the Constitution now enshrines that there must be diversity of males and females on the board. Just to come back to JT's question, I think you're whistling in the dark if you think the fitness industry can change governments by itself. That is not going to happen. Right. Even if all those particular fragments come together, there is no way in the world that you're going to change a government in Victoria by one industry. You need to get multiple industries working in collaboratively to make that happen. You'll be setting fitness up for an absolute whipping if the fitness industry stood up by itself and tried to change the leadership of the government in Victoria. The bottom line is we don't like what Dan Andrews is doing, but if you look at the opinion polls, he's still got majority support from the community. So it's going to be a very brave industry that stands up and says, by the way, guys, we think you should get rid of this leader, and we're clean, we're hygienic, all the rest of it. We know that, but let's have a reality check here. It's never going to happen by one industry doing it by itself, even if all those jigsaw pieces come together. That is just whistling in the dark and a waste of energy, and it will actually, I believe, set us backwards.
I disagree with that, Barry, because somebody has to step up. So, you know what would be great? The fitness industry steps up, and then another industry steps up, and another industry steps up. That's how it happens. If we all wait and wait, it's never going to happen. So somebody has to step up and put their big girly pants on at some stage and say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do this. Who's going to join me? Because you know what? What's the worst scenario? What's the worst scenario? Where we are right now. At the back of us.
Can I just
we don't have the numbers in the fitness industry to do that, but I do think the argument around small business and the way government's making decisions, if we broaden our argument slightly, then it becomes more relatable for other industries. Other people will step up and go, well, I've got an industry.
Yeah,
we're protected at the moment, but will we be next time? You know, getting people thinking more along the lines of small business or business rather than, you know, fitness industry, because look at how much of the population we have, not a high amount. So I don't know what you guys think, but I think broadening the argument isn't, I agree with Barry. I don't think we're going to change an election, but
well,
it help our argument.
we may not change an election, Eddie, but we have to speak up. We're not doing enough. We were left on the back of the bus. This is why we're having this conversation today, because we're not respected in the industry. We got too comfortable doing what we do, and have a look what happened.
What else can we do now, though, Mel? It seems to me that a huge amount of change has happened in 6 months. So,
Eddie,
what else?
Richard, can I just add something? And it's from what
you
mentioned and really related to what Mel's mentioning right now. And it was in a live interview with JT and Barry. And he mentioned how right now we're getting ready for this to hit again, whether it be COVID or something like it. And the next time it hits, we want to be fully prepared. So the actions that we're implementing right now will echo 4 to 5 years, or let's hope, as you mentioned, Barry, not in your lifetime, knock on wood again. But if it does happen, at least what we're implementing right now can actually affect what's going to happen in the future. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that right now what we do, no matter what, will echo effects later on. So I think it's never a bad time to still completely go in and try our best to come together, like you were mentioning, and however that looks like. I think that's
Don't you think that what we're doing today is setting the path for a better industry in the near future?
Can I just say there, guys, a couple of things. Firstly, in relation to the polls and you know, and support from members of the public for the government, what I found over the years is you've got to be very, very careful about that, because, you know, I'm hearing a different thing out in the streets. All the people that I'm talking to and my friends down there in Victoria are all going, you know, we've had enough of this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so firstly, I think we have to draw a line in the sand and say, we can go out and ask 100 people and get whoever we want in whatever subsection and get the results that we want. An economist told me many years ago, he said, listen, I'm an economist. He said, I can make the numbers say whatever you want. Okay, and that's what I feel that happens in this political world. And Mel, you hit something right on the head, and we talked about this in an earlier podcast where we said, you know, people haven't got the guts nowadays to step up and question things. You know, we get charged bank fees. How often do you go to, and nobody steps up and just takes it for granted, or rates and so on and so forth. So look, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But what I would like to say to you both as leaders, or all of us here as leaders, is that whoever's going to fire that bullet by going to the media, by going to the politicians, what is the next step? Because what I found dealing with politicians in the world that I live in, with in leadership in the communities, is that you must have a strategic play.
Yeah.
If they do this, we do that. If they do this, we say this. Okay, so the industry needs to come together, and we've been so busy in the industry surviving. Okay, surviving. And I'm an outsider, if you want to call it, to a fitness center. But what's actually happening is everybody's watching what Joe's doing down the road and trying to compete against whatever Joe's doing, and they forgot about the real reason they're actually there. Okay, we all need to make money. We all need to survive. Okay, but we're at a point where we need a lobbyist within the government to start kicking some heads.
So what else, Mel, you touched on exactly what Rich is saying, you know, about collaborating, and you guys are all coming together and you are meeting as it is. What else is it that you think should be done? I know you're saying, you know, people need to do more. Like, it seems from my point of view, and all of us, I think, have been in the industry, well, over 30 years or a long time, or what else? For me, we've done more than we've ever done in the last 6 months. What else do you think we should be doing, both as small business owners, as individual operators, as collaborating, as in terms of forming this one organisation, and as Rich said, designing a strategy to go forth, because everyone is seeing politicians, everyone is shooting the bullets already. From my point of view, I don't know if everyone agrees, but it seems like it's happening to me. It's like, what else do we need to do? And as Rich said, maybe more strategy. Are you going to come together and form one lobbying body? Is that in the forecast, or what do you guys see as the next steps to get us to the next level?
I think it would be great to see everybody come together. I think we owe it to the fitness industry to do that. And the only way we're going to create change is by doing that, Eddie. You know, I can sit here for half an hour and speak about it, but the reality is we need to all come together and sit down and go, you know, we need to build a new foundation, and we need to be seen doing positive things in our industry. We need to be keeping our talent in the industry. We need to be offering more education. We need to be working with allied health professionals. We need to be seen as professionals, and we're all responsible for this. And the only way that is going to happen is when all of the associations come together as one. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same year in, year out. And let's face it, look at all of us here right now. I mean, how many years have we all got left in the industry doing what we do? Who's going to do our jobs when we move on to the next phase of our lives? I mean, we've got a responsibility to get those people ready to take over my role, your role, Justin's role, Richard's role, Barry's role, everybody's role. But there's also, we've got to prepare the next generation of trainers, the next generation of club owners. Do we really want to lead those people into the mess that we're in now?
Well, it seems, I mean, we've been chatting with Barry. Fitness Australia are doing a lot. I mean, they have covered most of what you've just mentioned. I think the political lobbying is the big gap. And that's where, and maybe this is where that collaboration of defining what organisation does what. Fitness Australia is already on that education page, you know, and the credibility page. And Barry's background is that, which is fantastic. And how can we all come together and go, okay, well, this organisation's got more specialty in this area, and really help each other in that way, instead of going, no, well, we're doing better, no, you are, and then everyone just closing the doors, you know. But I agree. I think it'd be really exciting if you guys all sort of brought the big lobby bodies together, and maybe it all does collaborate into the one, maybe it doesn't, but the discussion would be awesome.
I think we could kill the negativity in the industry. I mean, let's face it, you know, professionals get on and say negative stuff on the Fitness Australia social media page. They get onto FitRec, they get onto everybody's page to say something negative. But imagine if we do come together as one, how we could repair that persona that they're seeing. Maybe that's all it really going to take is to come together. Everybody's got the same agenda, and perhaps we can kill some of that negativity that's out there at the moment. Because
so Barry, Barry, your thoughts, mate, just on that, just quickly, just what your thoughts on?
Well, I look at just listening to this conversation, and what worries me, I guess, it's like, yeah, it's all, in theory, it's fantastic. Absolutely agree with it. But there are some fundamental differences in some of the organisations that have been, the names that have been thrown around at the moment. And if I go back to what I was talking about before, in terms of creating credibility and respect, and perhaps going down for the sector, and perhaps going down some sort of regulatory framework, you cannot do that without having ongoing professional development. CECs, call it what you like. And one of the main organisations that you know, Mel and told me that just told us she's an ambassador for, does not believe in ongoing professional development. Now, that to me, there's a mismatch there, and you cannot have, in my mind, those sort of different standards as you're trying to bring an industry together, because it's at the end of the day, it's going to pull it apart again, because you have not resolved some key and crucial agreement points. And I guess as an ex-teacher myself, and coming from still an educational background, I would never support not having professional development for any industry that wants to be taking themselves seriously. So I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Barry, I just wonder whether, you know, maybe I do wonder what the foundations are. I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder in terms of the foundations of that organisations and whether they were filling a gap that wasn't being filled in the past. And I just wonder if further conversations are had that may be dispelled and perhaps have been exaggerated over time from lack of conversation, because I can't speak for Dennis. I don't know. I'm certainly not saying anything he said to me, but I did see there was a gap in Fitness Australia prior to you being the CEO, with people who weren't able to get certification. There wasn't a lot being offered. And so there was a gap that was filled from FitRec at that time. And maybe the needs have changed and maybe the direction of the industry shifted. But I'm always nervous when we stick with the point of view that did happen in the past. And I think this is a real opportunity. That might be the case of how Dennis thinks today, but does he think that way today? You know, I do really wonder whether anyone would think no professional development is a good thing. At the end of the day, you have the background for that. You've got the support for that. And I think trying to separate each other, it just would be great if you guys could at least have a conversation. And there's certain things, obviously, if you as CEO of Fitness Australia are going to go, we are not budging on that, and totally respect that for the industry.
Yeah, and look,
I've
had a couple of discussions with Dennis going back to Filex last year, and we were talking about perhaps doing something together. And anyway, they didn't go anywhere. But the bottom line is, if you go on the FitRec's website, their front page advertises the fact there's no CCs. So that straight away there is a disconnect with any organisation that wants to be seen as being professional, supporting standards. I mean, it's the antithesis of trying to be taken seriously. There's no other profession I know, I'm happy to be corrected on this, that does not require professionals to undergo continuing education and development. And to advertise the fact that, you know, you don't require that, to me, is a disconnect. Now, that's not to say that we might not be able to do something together, but as it currently stands, there is a big gap there. And I count as the CEO of an organisation which promotes professional development, is trying to raise standards, is trying to increase credibility and respect, go down the path where we are seen to be endorsing implicitly or explicitly any organisation or any sort of, I guess, philosophy where it's not required. It's just...
Barry, can I just throw something in there? Look, I've been around in the volunteer land within Australia, you know, of surf clubs and bushfire brigades and go on so forth, right out through the communities. And can I just say something there, mate? Because what I found is that some of the organisations that I've worked with are very professional, like say Surf Life Saving Clubs organisation, and we're never ever going to align, you know, like with our competitor down the road. You know, we do something and it's structured and it's very good, and they do something else which is very good. And I think what Eddie's kind of saying and what other guys are sort of saying is that I think we've got to throw all of that out the window. And Barry, you may not agree with Mel, and Mel might not agree with Barry and whoever and whatnot, but there is a lot of little independent fitness owners out there who have their beliefs. And then we've got multinationals out there that have got their beliefs. And I think it's time that we all come together and we all go, you know what, we're going to work together for the greatness of this industry, or the government is going to continue to treat us like dirt. All right, so I agree with what you're saying, Barry. I agree with what Mel's saying. JT's got a question.
Actually, Mel had a hand up before me. So, Mel, you go first, then I'll have a go.
Thank you. Barry, I'm a little bit disappointed in what you just said, because I opened up conversation today for collaboration, and the conversation wasn't supposed to be about what each business offers. It was about us coming together as one to solve the issues that we have today. I don't think there's any need to get on and sell the service that we provide, because at the end of the day, the consumer will buy where they want to buy from. I opened up conversation today when I reached out to you guys on Facebook a couple of weeks ago to try and come together as one and collaborate so that we can work together as an industry.
Look, and I agree, Mel, and I understand where Barry's coming from as well. You know, so I think, you know, we're here today. We've said our piece, and we're, you know, but I think moving forward, it's about the industry, and I think, you know, let's put our heads together, whether it's JT or Megan or whoever brings this together. Maybe our thinking lady down in the bottom corner, Eddie there, you know, to pull all of this together. You know, so, You know, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just like-
I was just
JT,
going
you were
to
going to say something, yeah.
yeah, I actually think the industry is working together. I know, and please, Mel, I'm not saying I know what it's like in Victoria, and I'm not professing to say that at all. But what I heard from Barry is that there's regular conversations between Vic Active and Fitness Australia. I see them working together. Fitness First, Anytime Fitness, Fernwood, they're working together to try and raise the profile through that campaign. So I think as an industry, we are working probably closer together than we ever have for the betterment of getting gyms open and for our industry as in that sense. I do see and I understand the philosophical differences in different bodies around registration. And I think that's almost I get how it's encompassing in the next step, but at this point, I actually do think we are collaborating really well. And I see independent owners and I see franchises, everybody's signing petitions, everybody's working their butts off to get gyms open and get us back to where we were pre-COVID. And I think that is really exciting. I think the registration side of thing is a completely different beast. Yeah. That at this point we should actually park and we should come back to that when we've got gyms back open, when we've got business happening again. That's just my observations. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I'm just as an observer.
That's great, JT. That's the reason we all came together to throw these things out on the table. It's not about poking each other in the eye. It's about about coming together for the best of the industry. So yeah, mate, you summed it up well, Eddie.
No, I was just going to say, I think it just shows we're all hugely passionate. Like I love the fact that we're all saying what we really think, and we really are thinking at the point of what can we do next? What do we need? And I think it's exciting that everyone is this passionate. And thank you guys both for coming and chatting about it as well. I just think as JT says, I think you summed it up brilliantly, JT, that things are moving forward. I've never seen as much collaboration in my whole life in the industry. And I think it's just a matter of, I think the question was around strategy and getting bigger, because I think you get excited and you go, it's working, it's starting to come together, let's see what else we can do. And that's the exciting part. So yeah, congrats to you guys for everything you've done.
Absolutely.
As an industry, we have a long way to go. Most gyms are going to open with 70 to 80% of their members that they had back in January. So that for many gyms just is their profit gone. So as an industry, we must go back and we must position ourselves better as a place to come and work out.
Yeah.
Whether that's online, in a park, in a church hall, or in a gym, and I mean gym bricks and mortar, Richard, a health and fitness facility. So we've got our work cut out, and I think we're going to need all hands on deck, as we're seeing in the United States, to show the consumer that our gyms are clean when we follow all the standards that the government sets or that Fitness Australia sets, that we follow those standards. Our gyms are safe, and that people can come back and they should feel comfortable coming back into our facilities. So we are far from over this, far from over it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, guys, look, I can't thank you enough, both of you, Barry and Mel, for coming along this evening and having a talk, and it was great to hear what your thoughts and what's actually happening out there in the industry. And I know that a number of people, and Barry said something about, I don't know how far and wide this webinar, podcast, whatever goes, but yeah, look, we have some people from overseas that do come in on this, and we welcome their feedback on this as well. So we've got to remember, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of other countries out there that have gone through this, as you said, Barry, before, about South Africa or Africa, and we can learn a lot of things and work smart, by watching what's going on around the rest of the world. And and these guys around you, you know, they hear what's going on, and I guess, you know, we need to be mindful of where everybody sits in the rung, you know, whether you're a little independent gym, you know, or a specialised centre, you know, or you're one of the big multinationals, and I think, you know, today we've just shown that, you know, there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of passion behind it. The industry's full of egos, as we all know, but hey, shove them in our back pockets and let's get this thing kicked along.
Absolutely. It sounds like we are. Barry's losing his hair and has his first gray hair. So
You're not supposed to
that's saying
notice that.
something.
Yeah, so, you know, look at me, mate, you know, like, I mean, you know, it's pretty crazy, but it happens, mate. But no, well done, guys. Look, please, you know, stay in contact, and we'd love to have you on again. You know, there's a lot of people out in the industry that are looking for solutions, and whether it's in the cleaning side of things, you know, they're looking for to meet the standards, whether it's regulations, whether it's just support to go, well, it's COVID JobKeeper 2.0 or 2.3, whatever it's going to be next, you know, or whatever, and they're looking at you guys to sort of say, you know, what is it that we can do. And as Mel said, you know, about, you know, even that just steering somebody to get some help, you know, is what we all need to do. So
yeah, Richard, just obviously we're coming to the end now, and look, I think I said when I started, you know, I started my working career as a teacher, a secondary teacher in outdoor education and history, and history teaches you one thing, and that is, you know, crises don't come along too often. When they do come, there's lots of different ways you can react. You can go to bed, pull the doona up and go in the fetal position and wait for it all to pass over your head and hope it does. You can do to some degree what we're doing at the moment, which is that storming, norming, forming. That's the discussion we've just been having it now. But also you can look at the opportunities that come out of the crises. And I very much believe, and this could be a glass half full, and okay, I'm still a virgin as far as fitness goes in the industry. But I think there's a really good opportunity here if the industry takes time to reflect. And it comes back to Mel was saying before, to some degree, how do we get in this situation? And we'll be in the same situation again if we don't do something about this. The worst thing would be to just go back to same old, same old. We really do need to do things differently and think a bit more creatively. And I'm happy to talk to anybody to try and make that happen. But I do believe, and the reason why I stay working, even though I was only appointed as a short-term contract in this role, is because I find the industry so positive. The beauty of this industry, there are no losers. Everyone wins if we're, you know, at the end of the day. And to me, there's huge opportunity here to actually get something really good out of this. I know that at the moment in Victoria, at the moment, that may seem you're whistling in the dark, mate. I think there's a really good opportunity here to get something really, really good for the whole sector, and for me personally, the wider community, because that's what drives me. What we can do for the wider community and their health and physical and mental well-being. So let's look at the opportunities that come out of this. We're going to get through it, but let's look at the opportunities and let's grasp those opportunities and make things different.
Well,
so Barry, look, I can't agree more, and I think that I think we might finish on this, but I think the key to this whole thing is putting together. I think Mel might have mentioned something in the beginning. You know, where are we going to be in the next 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years? And I think it comes a bit down to it's time to put together a strategy. As an industry, we need to put together a strategy of where we want to be, you know, in the next 5 years, or if this ever happens again, or whatever, you know. So, and I think that it's time to pull in some key people and sort of go, okay, let's start to think about where, you know, this strategy for the next, whether it's the next 6 months, 12 months, or 5 years, you know. But I think you're both on the right track. So, Eddie, the Thinking Lady's got.
I just on that track, because Barry mentioned the consultation. So I'm actually interested in what format's coming out, so we can look out for it.
It'll
consultation.
Yeah. It'll be a questionnaire as the first part of it, and then hopefully when COVID is, we can travel. There'll be face-to-face meetings on a state-by-state basis with members, non-members, professional trainers, business owners, whatever it might be, and then we'll go from there. We'll come back with a further draft for further consultation. But the first part of it is a questionnaire which is being developed by the university we're working with.
Great. So that seems like a really fantastic opportunity to do exactly what you're saying, Rich. That's all. I just was
Yep.
keen to keep an eye
That's
out for it.
fantastic.
Yep.
And I'll
Okay.
drop everybody's
Oh, no.
details in the comments.
And Barry, we can test the survey because we can all get into South Australia, and some people in South Australia might just be the right people to test that survey on.
Well, JT, there's better wine in South Australia than the Hunter Valley, mate. I can tell you that being in Adelaide.
Oh, them
Ooh,
fighting
there we
words,
go.
Barry. That's fighting words, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, guys, look, we'll have to leave it there. And don't forget, Megan's going to put her application in, and you know, we're all going to vote for Megan. And so well done, guys. I really do appreciate everybody's time. In a fortnight, we're going to reconvene. And yeah, look, I mean, if you guys are around, we'd love to bring you in and take this a bit further.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Barry.
guys.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mel. Thanks,
All right,
Barry.
good on you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Megan.
See you guys. Thanks, JT.
Thanks, Richard.